Guest today is the Commissioner of Environment for the City of Chicago. Prior to being named Commissioner by Mayor Daley just over 2 years ago, she served for 14 years in the department. Our guest today has worked on key projects for the department, including Green Corps Chicago, Chicago Center for Green Technology, and the Calumet Initiative. She earned her undergraduate degree from the University of Illinois and her master's degree from Northwestern University. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commissioner of Environment for the City of Chicago, Suzanne Malec-McKenna. Commissioner?
Jay said, have fun. How can I not have fun with this great crowd here, many of whom are wonderful partners of ours at the City of Chicago? So I will definitely attempt to do that, because everybody's smiling, and I hope you'll stay smiling, and if you're not, I'll pull you out of the crowd later, okay? It's great to be here again to give you an update on what the Department of Environment has been up to, but I first want to start by saying the work that we do in the Department of Environment is really the work that we do in partnership with incredible city agencies, sister agencies, corporations, foundations, museums. It seems almost like an unlikely partnership, and I'll get into some of those partnerships as we go along, but I truly believe, and certainly the mayor believes, that the way that we make things happen is in partnership. It's not just a bunch of government bureaucrats. It's not just the corporate leaders. It's not just the community-based organizations, but it's all of those groups working together, because indeed, by doing so, we're leveraging incredible ideas and creativity. We're leveraging finances, and we're leveraging trust over time, which is absolutely necessary to make the work that we need to get done in a way that people have ownership for it in the long term. So I have to just mention some partners here, such as the Public Building Commission, Department of Innovation and Technology, Department of Community Development, our aldermen, Vi Daly, Joe Moore. There are many aldermen who've been really engaged with us. Having Do It here, because they do it, man. They get it done. Hardy Bot. Is really important to show our partnership. And we also have the Department of Law, Jennifer Burke and others that are here today. Department of Zoning and Land Use Planning, Bennett Holler. Our head of housing within community development, Ellen Solly, I saw her somewhere around here. So just on the city government side, it's just such an incredible opportunity right now. I think our cabinet is really engaged in looking at how we can be creative, how we can partner together to make things happen. Before I get into the details of our presentation, I do want to also acknowledge Doug Scott. We already mentioned him, but as the head of IEPA, in the rough times and the good times, Illinois EPA has been an incredible partner and has been willing to stick their neck out with us on some initiatives that I'm going to talk about today. And I also think it's important to mention our team in the Department of Environment. Again, there are many departments that are part of this effort, and I will go into that. But before I get started, and so I don't forget, because I'm just a tad nervous, it's amazing to see all these faces out here. I want to have our senior leadership team stand up. Senior leadership team, stand up. That includes, and stay standing to embarrass you, Josh Milberg, our new first deputy commissioner, Aaron Dernbaugh, head of natural resources and water quality, Joyce Coffey, head of policy and research, Kimberly Worthington, head of urban management and brownfields redevelopment, Kevin Schnoes, head of permitting and enforcement, David O'Donnell, head of energy and sustainable business, Erica Slaughter, my assistant extraordinaire. They put up with everything we do, and I know there's some others here like Dave Graham and others as well. Just give them a round of applause. Thank you. And lastly, just other city kind of agencies, which we'll talk about, but Skinny was already mentioned, but the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority, who sees millions of people every year, are really on the forefront of green development as well, and letting people know the ways that they can do business. Also, CHA is here, Linda Kaiser, as well as Maria Hibbs from Partnership for New Communities. Here's a large organization that has huge impacts on thousands of people every day. And they really get the green message, but it's not just about green, right? It's about quality of life. and they've been incredible partners with us in all of that. So I'm going to give you a quick update on where we've been. Last time I was here, I gave an overview of what the Chicago Climate Action Plan was and where we're going. And the first thing I need to do is, as you can see here, our usual logos, our Global Philanthropy Partnership and the City of Chicago as the two organizing partners. But now we've added another, and that's Civic Consulting Alliance, which you'll see on the right. Many of you probably know Brian Fabes and his team, Tom McCone and others. Civic Consulting Alliance is part of the Commercial Club, the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago. In the past several years, they have brought together millions of dollars of pro bono support from contractors, and has made our work so much more rich because the data has been there, the analysis has been there, and they're helping us really work in the corporate context as well to have a very robust and a very positive and strong plan in the long term. So just wanted to acknowledge them as a new and very important partner. So just to start out with some fun stuff, I'm just going to throw them at you. We're not going to quiz you on it until later. So there's some great accomplishments just in the past year. 13,500 dwelling residential units retrofitted and 252 commercial and industrial units. 3,800 appliances traded in. 200 buildings permitted to our new energy code as of April of this year. 1.2 million square feet of new green roofs required through our developments. 20 million gallons per day of water conserved. 5% increase in CTA ridership. 636 new car share vehicles here just in Chicago. 280 new CTA hybrid buses added to the fleet. 380,000 plus gallons of alternative fuel sold. 11.5% decrease in single-family waste disposal, which of course is replaced with recycling. 204,000 tons of waste diverted from landfills. 115,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions reduced, and many more coming along. So fun data here. And again, as you can see, that's not just Department of Environment, it's not just one city department, it's us, it's our sister agencies, it's our partnerships. Now I'll get into how we've gotten there and where we're going as a result. So as you may remember, our climate action plan is really based on emissions reduction. But if we just focus on that, then we've missed the boat, because some of our key partners like Peoples Gas and ComEd and CETA and others are really have similar goals, but they need to be brought together. So we want to reduce BTUs utilized. We want to reduce kilowatt hours of energy. We want to help as many low-income households as we possibly can. Bringing all those together makes our efforts much richer. And the way that we're doing it, number one, is a new energy efficiency code that was passed in 2008. Now we're up to the 2009. Now we're up to the 2006 International Energy Code. Now we have to get up to the 2009 and on and on. It's not an easy process, but it's a great opportunity to engage our developers, our builders, and our many departments about the ways that we can build in a greener way, and Public Building Commission is certainly leading the way with thousands of square feet of new LEED certified buildings. So how do we get this work done? So retrofit, if you'll remember, is really about energy efficiency work. How do we insulate your building better, weatherize it? How do we change out your HVAC, sometimes your windows, lighting retrofits? All those types of things together are part of it. And we have a group that agreed to get engaged. We were dating earlier in the spring, and now we're engaged. And it's made up of these partners: Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the city, Peoples Gas, the Field Museum, CETA, Northern Illinois Energy Project, and ComEd. Those groups all have some of these similar goals together, and we know that if we partner in this effort, we'll likely leverage much more effort, be more efficient and effective in how we carry out our work, but also, hopefully, engage more people at the community level so that there's ownership across the board in the city for the work that we're doing. So our first set of goals, the overall goal for residential retrofit is to retrofit 400,000 residential units. And again, retrofitting is HVAC, weatherization, et cetera, to achieve a 30% energy efficiency. Our goal to date, and this goes from the beginning of January 2008 through June of 2009, our goal was 10,000 residential units. We achieved 13,500. Our goal was 100 commercial and industrial units. We achieved 252 commercial and industrial units retrofitted, again, because of that broad partnership that I mentioned. Now part of that is, besides coordinating our efforts in what we're calling co-delivery, looking at issues such as how we leverage financing for this work at low income, moderate income, and beyond. how we have a certification standard that everybody uses, because if we're all using different standards, how do the public schools and the city colleges train people for the opportunities if we don't have the same system? How do we all monitor and demonstrate how we're getting our work done? Because ultimately, if you remember, it needs to come back to how many greenhouse gas emissions are we reducing? Our goal overall is to achieve a 25% reduction below 1990 levels by 2020, and that's 15.1 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions that need to be reduced. Every single one of our goals has a specific amount that we're striving towards. And so 400,000 residential units and our commercial industrial units make up a little over 2 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions reductions. How do we get this to happen really at the community level? Our partnership that engaged Retrofit Steering Committee has come up with a plan, and we launched it just in the last couple of weeks. It's called the Energy Action Network. And our goal, first of all, is to prevent disconnection of utilities. Across the city, people are hurting financially. It's impacting their quality of life. We want them to have their heat on and their electricity on, especially during the winter time. And for each year, we've partnered on a range of different projects, but now this partnership amongst the city departments, including Community Development and Environment, and Department of Family Support Services and others, have looked at how we can do a program year-round across the city. And the overall goal is to link with community-based organizations and build that capacity at the community level to engage residents and businesses in how we can achieve this energy efficiency work in a way that also saves them money, improves their quality of life. So what we're doing is we're providing additional resources to each of those community-based organizations. Our first goal is 30 sites across the city for a year, and CETA is our key partner in that. So these maps will give you a little bit of a feel for it. So the map on the left shows the city of Chicago, of course, and those little stars are our rock star community groups that CETA, the Field Museum, Department of Community Development, and us and others have really said these groups really know how to deliver LIHEAP, which is low-income heating and energy assistance, and weatherization support. But if we were able to support those groups further, what more could they do? Again, with the goal of preventing disconnection and getting more people to take advantage of these energy efficiency resources. So this map that you see here has both our Rockstar locations plus all the other locations, 120 in total across the city where you can go in your community to get help for low-income heating and energy assistance, weatherization, etc. It also has our Department of Public Health facilities, our Family and Support Services facilities. And we're looking at how we can make a network happen in such a way that we leverage all this effort together. So if you add on to that list our Conservation Corps leaders and our student clubs, it gets messy, as you can see. But the idea is our Conservation Corps program, which was launched in 2006, now has 300 leaders across the communities of Chicago. And I think we have a leader right over here, Angela, right? Stand up, Angela. Come on, Angela Ford, one of our first C3 leaders. And Angela was working with developers and with property managers in the South Loop and said, what if I got the property managers to save energy? What if I got them to save on waste and water? She got it. She was excited, and she's just continued to go forward and forward. And that's what we want. We want to provide the skill set and the information necessary for people in their communities to take the lead and connect the resources. Because as we know, and especially the Field Museum has taught us, if we're from the government and we're here to help, oftentimes the community groups will turn around and run the other way, right? Oh, you're gonna boot my car, you're going to whatever, right? There's a trust issue here. And there's a trust issue with the utilities as well, and we understand that. So how do we build trust? We work with the community leaders that people go to for advice and information. And working with the C3 leaders, also working with our Chicago Conservation Clubs, we think we can link that to these rockstar community groups to have much more impact in getting the word out. So we have about 70 Chicago Conservation Corps leaders and 50 Chicago Conservation Club high school groups who are now working with us around energy efficiency and weatherization. The school children, about 1,000 total, will be going out and doing weatherization in their own homes, taking photos. It's part of their community service efforts. The leaders will link up with these community-based organizations to just help out with the outreach, etc. Again, more of a network, an engaged and informed community network who can really spread the wealth and be good ambassadors for our work. And then if you add to it, to make it really messy, Department of Public Health's lead homes. These are homes that have high levels of lead in the bloodstreams of the children, and we know that it has impacts on cognitive ability, et cetera, as well as EHAP and HRAIL. These are emergency assistance programs through the Department of Community Development. Then you're starting to see, again, another set of resources that can come together. If we can engage at the community level a real core group around these efforts so they're not hearing from 50 different people, which is overwhelming, intimidating, and often causes people to go the other way, we now have the ability to engage people in a network that works together and leverages these resources for the years to come. So this is a major new initiative we have, and we're actually receiving the applications today, right, Pat? And we'll have 30 new community-based organizations who are part of the network serving as these pilot locations for this next year. Of course, there's a lot of other great work moving forward as our goal, as I stated, to achieve retrofit of half of our commercial and industrial work across the city of all those buildings. Our goal was 100 by June of this year. We've achieved 252. We always love to point out the Merchandise Mart, the largest commercial building in the world, which not only received LEED existing building certification, but now also is finishing up a retrofit system, which is going to allow them to save somewhere between 8 and 11% of their annual operating costs a year. Largest commercial building in the world achieving that kind of savings. So we know the payback is 8 to 10 years, but that savings is massive, and the implications and what they can teach people, since they're definitely an educational type of center, is tremendous for the larger corporate world. On your left, you see the Aqua building, designed by Jeannie Gang. I just learned it's the largest building designed by a woman architect in the world, and it's here. Yeah, let's hear it. And it's a super cool building. As you can see, these undulating waves for the terraces, that's actually to provide shading at particular times of the day so that there's less of an energy load. They also have alternative fueling infrastructure in the building, really energy efficient systems, water efficient systems, et cetera. And then another iconic building in the city, Daly Center, that Public Building Commission is overseeing, a full-scale retrofit as well that's going to save tremendous amount of not only dollars, but water, waste, energy through this work. It pays itself over time. So doing this work is not just green and fun and environmental, it's an economic approach that happens to have environmental benefits. Clean and renewable energy sources, it's really important to note that this is an incredibly burgeoning area, as we all know. We're hearing about it every single day in every paper, locally, nationally, and internationally. And with Bain and Company and Environmental Law and Policy Center, the Chicago Manufacturing Center, World Business Chicago, and Manufacturing Renaissance Council and CNT, Center for Neighborhood Technology, those first groups, partnered with all of these alternative fueling and alternative energy companies. We now have 10 corporate headquarters for wind energy companies in the city of Chicago. It was 7 6 months ago. It was 3 6 months before that. Why is that? Because we're the windy city? Not really. It's really because we're a hub for so much activity. We're a hub for transportation. We're close to so much opportunity for wind development. These teams came together and came up with a plan for the next 3 years that has policy implications, how we purchase our renewable energy, as well as the opportunities to make sure that we're aligning on economic development strategies, both at the state, the regional, and the local level, not to mention the national level through the Waxman-Markey bill and other things that are coming about. Some of the things that have happened in this past year, we've had 3 pilot ground source heat pump installations. You may say, what the heck is that? It's really using the constant 55-degree Fahrenheit temperature in our ground to help with cooling and heating. When we first built that at the Chicago Center for Green Technology, our own city departments thought we were kind of out of our minds. It took us 2 years to get our own city permits. Okay, it's true. But that was then, and this is now. And now, if you do that, all right, stop laughing. But if we do this energy efficient development, these things that take advantage of the best properties in environment and the best properties in the economy, now through our green permit process with Department of Buildings, you can go to the front of the line in your permitting process and you can have many of your developers' fees waived. What do we hear from developments all the time? What are the biggest problems? Time and money. So how do you incentivize people to do this type of work? Oftentimes developers develop and leave. So what is it to them if you're saving money for the long term for the people who buy that property. Well, in this day and age, there's a lot into it, and there's a lot of opportunity for marketing and for more development as a result. So we have some pilot projects there, and then the planned solar development with Exelon in Pullman on a 40-acre brownfield that's been abandoned for 30 years or so, Kimberly. And so now we have this massive project moving forward with Exelon and the city and others, 10 megawatts of solar, the largest urban solar installation in the world. That's actually under construction as we speak, and a great opportunity to demonstrate what we could be doing and what we can be doing and will continue to do as far as renewable energy is concerned. For transportation, we used to say in the very beginning, our first slide was always fixed transit first, and people would laugh at that. But you can stop. You don't have to laugh today. There are certainly many challenges, and Rich Rodriguez, who would be here today if he wasn't dealing with yet another challenge, I'm sure, they are doing some great work. They are investing in alternative fuels. They're investing in good infrastructure. We all have to speak loudly to our elected officials, to the government, about the importance of not only investing in the roads through the Recovery Act, but investing in our transit infrastructure, because in the long haul, that's going to make a massive difference in our quality of life in our communities. But everything from transit-oriented development to looking at bus routes, a whole range of things can be part of that, including making our community more bikeable and walkable. That connects, again, to public health and safety. So all of those things are really well interconnected. In the past year, through the Recovery Act, we just received a $15 million grant for Chicago area alternative fuels. We just did a great event at the Aqua Building with the mayor and others, where 554 new alternatively fueled and hybrid vehicles will be purchased for both public and private fleets. But I think what's the most exciting part of it is the 153 alternative fueling stations across the Chicago region. For the past 10 years or so, we've been working with CMAQ grants, Department of Transportation, a major player in that, which is congestion mitigation and air quality grants. And we've worked with suburbs across the Chicago region and built probably 30 alternative fueling stations. The problem, it's been great, we're happy to do that, but they haven't been accessible to the public. So if Joe Q. citizen wants to buy a compressed natural gas vehicle, where will they fuel it? There's a problem there. So this whole grant is about making publicly accessible fueling stations across the Chicago region, not just CNG and biodiesel, but also electric plug-in. And that is on the tip of being a massive explosion of development. Nissan is betting the farm on electric vehicles. Tesla, hot new car. If anybody wants to buy one, I'll go for a ride in it. I'll never afford it. But the electric infrastructure is coming, and it's not that difficult to put forth. And so we have a great partnership. This is a picture of the mayor and a young woman working to use their pass on their electric fueling system. We've also worked with our own City of Chicago. Our Department of Fleet Management has done amazing work and continues to with new hybrid vehicles. And lastly, the 2015 bike plan. Again, that walkability, bikeability in the city, again, connected to our quality of life, accessibility of all our neighborhoods, new bicycle racks, new bike lanes, et cetera. All those things interconnect with how we make a city more livable, a better quality of life, and while we're at it, good for the economy and good for the environment, as Jay always likes to say. For reduced waste and industrial pollution, some people might scratch their heads and say, well, how does that connect to all of this? Well, you might know that methane, which is a major off gas from landfills, is somewhat around 7,000 times more deleterious than carbon dioxide emissions. So if you have these gases that are coming out, methane is one, CFC-11, which is a refrigerant, and you're allowing that to go into the atmosphere, 1 pound of CFC-11 from a refrigerator can equal as much as 7,000 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent. This is all around our industrial processes in the city, and we need to look at how we can change those fuel systems, change the way we process waste in the city in a way that's good, again, for the economy as well. So in this past year, thank you, Doug Scott. We all went through the pain but passed the Soil and Rubble Ordinance in the city of Chicago. It is a cutting-edge process where we're actually looking at what we originally call waste and realize it's not waste. There's a lot of opportunity to reuse materials. So what about our soil under a new library that's going to be dug up for a foundation? What about the rubble from a CDOT sidewalk replacement? Are those things truly chemically deleterious? Are they going to cause problems for public health and safety? Or will they cause more problems if they get trucked all the way out to a landfill, all the gas, all the emissions, etc. And then we strip soil from a farm and bring that back. And by the way, that soil isn't necessarily very clean either from years of fertilization, etc. So use it here in the city, reuse it, make it an opportunity to stop thinking about it as waste and think of it more as a resource, not as a liability, but more as an asset. And that's what this is allowing us to do. And we hope in the next year we'll be able to add on all of our sister agencies. And someday, our dream is to allow private industry to be part of this as well. This is all connected to a range of different programs that we've literally stolen from other countries, and I'll certainly give credit to that in a moment. We also have, the Department of Transportation has passed a Green Alleys effort. They did 5 or 6, and now they're going on 100. We have in the city of Chicago 1,900 miles of alleys, more than any other city in the world. A great infrastructure for the city of Chicago, but also a great opportunity. So through the Green Alleys program, they're using high albedo, meaning highly reflective, and permeable, allowing the water to go through, asphalt, concrete, and other materials, which again reduces our energy load, reduces our need to pump water, which is also highly energy intensive, and provides improved quality of life in our communities. And it's a great example. Rain barrels, something anyone can do in their residence. Disconnect the downspout, 55 gallons of water. It's so nutrient rich. Why take from the lake what you can get from the sky? All those types of things are connected into our infrastructure. But connecting to that is our Waste to Profit network. And the Chicago Manufacturing Center, I think I saw Alistair here. Where are you? There we go. Raise your hand. Hi, Alistair. Thank you. So Chicago Manufacturing Center. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. They are a truly creative team. What they're doing is looking at industry in a different way. We have more than 3,000 manufacturers in the city of Chicago. We used to have 4,000 to 5,000. Okay, we've lost them for many different reasons. But number one, we need to help manufacturing stay here. And some of the best ways to do that is just by looking at their systems and how we can make them more efficient. So the people at CMC, for instance, have gone in and helped people with their cooling system, and instead of using these refrigerants, which are expensive, using a closed-loop water cooling system that saves the company 11 million gallons of water a year and tremendous amount of energy as well. So they have a program called Lean and Green Manufacturing. One of their newest clients, I can't wait for that to come out, is Goose Island Brewery, who did a carbon footprinting of their urban ale, 312 urban ale, and now is doing it for the whole company. So it's really not about being green and cool, although we are green and cool. It's really about how can I make my system more streamlined, more efficient, and what can I do with that information in a way that makes my business bottom line better. So that's what CMC is doing with us, with ComEd, with People's Gas, to look at how we can go into the manufacturing base, help businesses stay in business, and then once they're stabilized, help them expand and take advantage of the new opportunities coming down the pike. So in the past year and a half, we've gone from 60 projects or 100 companies to 225 companies participating in this. And again, getting rid of the term waste and thinking of it as a resource. One company's waste is feedstock for another. So in this past couple of years now, we've diverted 165,000 tons of waste from the landfill. We've reduced 103,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions and saved $15.6 million for those companies just by getting them in a room and talking about somebody's waste becoming another one's resource. And when I told you we'd steal ideas, we've stolen from London, who has a program that has 8,000 companies in their network. So we have a long way to go and a lot of opportunities, and it's just about kind of rethinking how we look at these different streams. Preparation, adaptation, another key thing to mention. So I think I mentioned this last year, but the bottom line is our climate is changing already. There's really no more argument about that, I don't think, and if anybody wants to argue with me later, I'll take you on, no problem. But the bottom line is that our habitat is changing, our vegetation is changing. We've gone from a hardiness zone, and I'm originally a horticulturist, so that's another reason I love this slide, but hardiness zone of 4B to 5A up in the upper Midwest to 5B, 6A. We are now, as much as I love University of Illinois, being a graduate, we are now Champaign-Urbana. What does that mean for the vegetation that can live here and will live here over time? What does it mean for invasive species? People have heard about zebra mussels in the lake. We have Asian carp coming up our canals, etc. How do we address those issues and prepare for them because we know they're coming? One of the things we've done with the Botanic Garden, Morton Arboretum, a whole range of different groups, is develop a invasive species ordinance. Doesn't sound very exciting, I know, but we started with Asian carp and the snakehead fish. Remember that, the snakehead fish ordinance? This crazy thing that crawls across the land. And now we have an aquatic invasive species ordinance and a terrestrial invasive species ordinance. And what we're saying is to the Chicago-based landscape companies, the garden centers, et cetera, is you can't plant this species anymore because over time it could become one of those dominant species like buckthorn is in our woods. We have to be more aware of particular species and their impacts, and then we need to have a really good action plan for preventing more introduction of invasive species. So this is an important aspect of our work. But then you have to combine the technologies to go along with it. On the left is satellite imagery of urban heat islands in the city of Chicago. On the top right is a more detailed satellite imagery of the marathon course. On the bottom right is our favorite poster project, the City Hall roof. What we've looked at is the impact of the vegetation structure in our city. So I think most of you might know the mayor likes trees. Anybody not know that? Okay. Really the first part of his engagement around the environment was keeping the Bureau of Forestry and Department of Streets and Sanitation at the Bureau level, and now actually he took it from division, brought it back up to Bureau. He reinvested in the importance of an urban forest as part of our infrastructure. So we have now worked with the Bureau of Forestry, with the Park District, Department of Transportation, and others around an urban forestry assessment. And our tree canopy assessment with the U.S. Forest Service shows that our original goal within the Climate Action Plan was to go from 14% canopy cover, so leafy cover across the city, to 17%. We've achieved 17%, so now that doesn't mean we just sit back and say, that one's done, check it off. We're going to increase it to 20% now. And the same thing with an urban forest agenda. How do we work with the landscape companies, the nurseries, et cetera, all of whom are hurting right now? And how do we invest in those organizations to make sure that residents, businesses, public agencies, et cetera, are really investing in this green infrastructure, which is so important not only to cooling our environment, mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, but also so important to our quality of life. So we're actually launching the Urban Forest Agenda this week. Lastly, green roofs. Again, the poster project. Many of you have heard this data, but I'm just going to make somebody who doesn't know the number is going to be allowed to yell it out. So on a 74-degree overcast day, the City Hall green roof side is what temperature? So, oh, you see, you knew this. 74 degrees. All right, thanks a lot. You're making it really fun for me. The other side, the black tar roof, the county side, a 74-degree overcast day, what's the temperature? Guesses? Don't be shy. Oh, you've heard it too. That is not fair. 152 degrees. So on the same 74-degree Fahrenheit overcast day, the green roof is 74 degrees, the black tar roof is 152 degrees. We learned that by doing thermal photography across the city. And so buildings put heat out in the middle of the night, as do our roads, et cetera. How do we break that up? And there are many ways to do it, but green roofs, green vegetation, all those types of things are part of this and really can make a difference in how we cool our city, but also make it a higher quality of life. So how do we do this work? Again, we do it in partnership. This is just a quick summary of some of the money that has come through the city to support this through the Recovery Act. Now, the city itself has gotten probably close to close to $2 billion now. I know at least $1 billion and growing. Writing grants, looking at partnerships, et cetera. But here are some of the grants that we've already received. And again, this is not just Department of Environment. But energy efficiency and conservation block grant funds, almost $28 million. That's allowing us to retrofit our streetlights from Lakeshore Drive north to south, Western Avenue north to south, all our city facilities, Department of General Services, all the parking lots, et cetera, that the city owns. Huge implications by transitioning into LED lighting, for instance, which cuts your energy use by at least 80% and therefore dramatically cuts pollution and emissions as well. Also working with our partners, the Historic Chicago Bungalow Association, CEDA, People's Gas, ComEd, Delta Institute, CNT, on energy efficiency retrofits, and CHA, who's doing that for a lot of their new redevelopments. The alternative fuels deployment I already talked about, a clean diesel grant that we've gotten, which is specifically about doing diesel retrofits for our school buses and other large vehicles. Deconstruction, which is really looking at how we take down buildings now in the city. This is a partnership with Department of Community Development, Workforce Development, and others. And that is really looking at how do you take the materials in those buildings and make use of them. Again, rethinking what waste is. It's not a liability, it's an asset. And we'll have workers that are trained to do that. Our Community Green Jobs and Work Experience program has gone from a $1.4 million program a year to a total of, I have to add up the math in my head, 3.75 million a year, both by expanding our Green Core Chicago program in partnership with WRD Environmental and OAI, to a partnership with Growing Power and Safer and many others to look at how we can really invest not only in ex-offenders but in people who are just chronically underemployed in this city. There is great work to be done and great opportunity for hundreds of people across the city of Chicago to take advantage not only of the recovery funds, but this burgeoning new economy, the transitional economy that's taking place as a result of the federal funds, as well as regulatory things that are moving all of us in a different direction. So great opportunities there. Our Climate Communities Grant is with the US EPA, yet another partnership with local hospitals and health networks. So how do we connect public health with energy? This will allow us to work specifically with the safety net hospitals in the city. These are the ones that take anyone who walks in the door and are struggling, and helping them to become more energy efficient, save money on the processes, and while we're at it, combine those efforts to get outreach to the communities, not only about energy efficiency, but health-related things that could help them. Urban and Community Forestry Program with the USDA Forest Service, $1.1 million, specifically in our Calumet area, to focus on jobs, environmental restoration, looking at our brownfields in a new way, in a new light. And lastly, plug-in infrastructure, again, looking at our electric vehicle opportunities throughout the city. And there's so much more to come. Again, all of our city departments and sister agencies have been writing grants like nonstop. We all feel like we're back in college pulling all-nighters. But there's tremendous opportunities here to partner and expand our leveraged partnerships over time. How do you manage all of this? It's very important to note that there actually is a system. This would not be able to be done without the partnership with the corporate community, without the partnership of all of our sister agencies and city departments. So A.T. Kearney came in thanks to Civic Consulting Alliance, and with us gave us about $500,000 in pro bono support over about 5 months to come up with a plan of action to track everything we're doing. And as you can see here, between these different city departments and sister agencies, we have 456 initiatives that are linked into the Climate Action Plan. Now, if you saw in the beginning slides, we have 35 actions. When we went around and started inventorying what everybody else was doing, there's 456 actions. There's so much that's already been done. The mayor has been mayor for 20 years, and he is invested in the environment. He's invested and understands the green infrastructure aspects of everything we all do. So all these sister agencies and departments, aviation is a shining example, are doing tremendous things and leading the way. But what we do with this then is we've turned this into quarterly milestones. So we have work plans that every department and sister agency reports out on a quarterly basis, and on an annual basis reports to the mayor on, so that we're keeping it in the forefront of our activities, because we know that's what's going to be necessary to keep the work going. So I'm going to end with a few more partners, and I'm not going to dare name all of these, and I am certain that I've missed one or two throughout this process, and I apologize for that. But it's extremely important to note that all this work that we're doing is not just one city department or sister agency. It's all of those groups, and it's many others. So from business leaders and advocacy organizations to our green museums and restaurants, to BOMA, working with downtown office buildings. All these groups together have a piece in this plan. It's not the city of Chicago, large C's plan. It's the small c. Our city, our future is our subtext for our Climate Action Plan, and we really believe that this is a way to leverage and provide support for all these organizations and help build capacity. So in these categories, and then you look at some of the many for-profit and nonprofit groups who've been part of our efforts as well. And it seems kind of strange when you think about it, from CETA to ArcelorMittal to Christy Weber Landscapes and Civic Consulting. Hi, Christy. How are you? The Clinton Climate Initiative, Clover Hill Bakery. So all these different groups have roles in this work, and many, many more. We hope that each year we're just going to have a larger and larger group of partners as part of it. ComEd, People's Gas, our energy companies, et cetera, are all extremely important. And engineering companies, universities, All of those groups have a piece in this, and we hope to continue to expand that. So this is not your, what's that advertising, the Chevy? It's not your mother's Chevy or something like that. This is not your parents' government. This is not your parents' city. This is a new city. It's a transformational economy. It's really connected to incredible leveraging of ideas and creativity and spirit. It's really a leveraging and a belief that our future is very, very, very bright here in the city of Chicago. And we know it can be done in partnership with all of you. And if you can continue to bring ideas to us and help us leverage and make this go for the long haul, we know we have a bright city indeed. Lastly, our implementation strategy consultants. I mentioned earlier, Civic Consulting Alliance brought most of these groups to us. If you look at this, $10.8 million in pro bono support over just the last 2 years alone, in addition to the Field Museum's work, Environmental Law and Policy Center, et cetera. Everybody who's investing in this sees that long-term benefit. And lastly, our Chicago area foundations, who without them, we wouldn't have a climate action plan in the first place. They came to us and said, we need to organize this, you need a task force. Adele Simmons of Global Philanthropy Partnership, Sadhu Johnston helped chair that to get it going. And we continue to receive tremendous amount of support from the foundations, not just for the city work, again, but our nonprofits who are doing this work as well. We could not do it without them. So, with no further ado, that looks really gray, but don't believe it. It's a happy city, and we appreciate all of your support. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner McKenna. People who have questions, if you would just hold up your paper. We've got some people around who will come and pick them up. And while the Commissioner is catching her breath, for someone who said she was very nervous, it's one hell of a presentation. Of course, both of us being U of I alums, we wouldn't expect anything else. Now if they could only field a representative football team. Okay. You mentioned, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, that it took you 2 years to get your permits. Did you ever consider hiring an expediter? I had him. I'm sorry.
Thank you, smart Alec.
Thank you.
Do you want me to answer that, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I guess one of the questions that was given to me was, last week the mayor presented his proposed budget, and what effect will his budget proposals have on your plans and policies in the Department of Environment?
Well, I would say not much of an impact. In Department of Environment, small and mighty though we may be, have about a $4 million corporate budget, leveraged by about $56 million in grants. So we aren't a heavily tax-oriented organization, and that's been the expectation of the mayor, that we seek out partnerships and seek out leveraged funding. So we actually submitted a budget that was less than our 2009 budget, knowing that the city is has some challenging times ahead, because we wanted to demonstrate that our commitment is to find those leveraged partnerships to make our work go further.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is from City Club member Julie Hewells. Julie, where are you?
There she is.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Will there be an effort to have Chicago make a statement for Earth Hour? For example, lights out for 1 hour.
Yes, indeed. We've had actually 2 Earth Hours in the past 2 years, sponsored by ComEd and many others, and it's part of the World Wildlife Foundation. It's at the end of March each year. It's the last Saturday of March. So the last 2 years, we've been partnering in that, and we'll continue doing that. And then the fun thing that comes from that also is a Earth Hour pledge for businesses. A really great extension of that has been, we started years ago doing a Lights Out program with our downtown businesses to protect migrating birds, because they actually navigate by light or the stars, and oftentimes they would, after crossing the lake and being exhausted, would hit the buildings. So we have seasonal times when the lights come out for that purpose. We've now extended that through the Earth Hour network to turn off lights around 11 o'clock all the way till 6 year-round, which of course, again, has massive savings for the buildings and energy use, and in addition, demonstrates to people our commitment to energy efficiency.
Okay, thank you. See, there's a question over here. Maybe we could just pass it up. It's working its way around. Thank you, Stella. Okay. Yeah, but you were nice enough to bring it up. Okay. But first we have a question from City Club member Debbie at PepsiCo. Debbie, where are you? Back there. Chicago-wide recycling. What's the timeline for Chicago?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about as far as recycling. I'm guessing you mean single-family residential. So it's important to note that our waste stream, 50% of which is construction and demolition debris, is now, because of C&D recycling ordinance, we're now seeing 85 to 95% recycling of 50% of our waste. Then you've got 14% of our waste, which is residential, 4 units and less, and that's the Blue Cart program, which is struggling due to our budget challenges. We've got 240,000 out of our 600,000 households that have Blue Cart. We're continuing to work with them. We have over 400 recycling block captains who are working to make those the best we can. And because of the challenges with the budget, we've slowed down a bit on our Blue Cart expansion. Our original goal was to have all 600,000 households in Blue Cart by the end of 2011. And we hope that we can catch up on that through a variety of kind of efficiency measures, working closely with Tom Byrne and Streets and Sanitation to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. This is from Barbara Gutman. Barbara, I bet you're sitting over here. There you are. What is being done to encourage forest plant landscapers? Ooh, you learn a lot when you come to these meetings. Forest plant landscapers to come up with recyclable parks, PACs.
Oh, that's a waste to profit project, actually. I think what you're talking about is the containers in which the plants come in? Okay, so Christy Weber over here is one of the leading landscape companies who's worked on that through the Waste to Profit Network. And actually, when I was cleaning my backyard with another great landscape guy yesterday, many of the plant containers now are 5s, 4s, etc. So as you probably know, your recycling, if you look underneath, and I hope you all do this, 1 through 5 is recyclable, 6 is not. It's usually a polystyrene type of material. 7 is recyclable. So a lot of them were 6s. Now, number 1, there are many more containers being made that are recyclable, that can be recycled. And number 2, there's an effort being undertaken by our landscape companies to gather those that aren't recyclable and getting them back to the companies to reuse them. So the ones that are 6s can last a very long time, and that's why they're not recyclable. They can be sterilized and reused, and that's something that the Waste to Profit Network, with the help of many landscape companies, has been moving forward on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, here's a question, because the Commissioner said there would be a little multiple choice test, so we'll see what kind of attention you paid. How many commercial buildings were retrofitted last year in Chicago? A, 100, B, 150, C, 200, or D, 250? And the answer is D. Very good. Jamal, I was afraid you would go, get another one. Okay. Commissioner, we want to thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. This is recyclable.
Indeed.
It's a 1-year membership to the City Club, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as you sit and pull those all-nighters, you're going to need something to put that very strong coffee in.
Thank you very much.
So our famous City Club mug and the history of the City Club.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.